universe. You are watching or later listening to the Odyssey Files. I am your host, Michael O'Neill. With me tonight is the great paranormal investigator Samuel Albus. Good evening,
Oh
Sam. How are
wow,
you?
the great paranormal investigator, huh?
Of course.
Wow, that's very high praise for me, but thank you very much for that.
Well, I mean, seeing as how I have been with you on every investigation you have ever done.
That is true. That's
I,
very true.
well, maybe not you've ever done, because who knows what you and your friends and
No,
stuff did.
pretty much not pretty much every single investigation we have been. I mean, we haven't been directly investigating together, but
Well,
obviously we are on the same team.
yes.
So,
And
yep, every location I've ever been in, you have been there as well. So.
I'm like the Sting song. Every breath you take.
Yeah, that slightly creepy Sting song.
It really
Not even
is.
slightly, like pretty creepy Sting song.
It is, and it's like one of his most classic songs ever, and it almost should be up there like as a Christmas song with Santa, like how he's the one that always watches you. So I mean, you think about it, since it is just a couple weeks before Christmas now.
Mm-hmm.
That as I get older, and we'll see if you agree with this, and you listen to such songs such as, I believe it's Santa Claus is coming to town or whatever it is.
Yeah.
He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're early. Like, who else knows that stuff? A peeping Tom and a stalker.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. Or like God, whatever perspective you want to take on that.
Yeah.
So, hey, if I will just pose this theory, I guess, maybe Santa is God. Maybe they're the same people. Has anyone considered that?
No. No, they haven't. Not even close. Nobody has ever considered that Santa and God are the same.
Well, more ridiculous claims have been made, I think, than that. So
that is true. Don't get me wrong. That is completely true. I just don't think that specific one has ever been made. And I think that, and I'm going to get into a lot of trouble for this. Okay. But I mean this in a very specific way. It is that God really does not give you presents. Like he doesn't come down your chimney and you wake up someday and there's just a whole big load of presents.
That's fun. That's funny because I've been keeping up with the World Cup a little bit, like ever since the round of 16 started happening, which is like the elimination rounds, where it's like 1v1. If you lose, you're out. And so many players you see coming off the field and they're like doing the cross on their chest or whatever, and just like, yes, pray to God. He definitely cares about this soccer match. He's definitely influencing one way or the other how this soccer match is going to go. I always found that to be very funny because not obviously, people who don't know who I am, I'm not a religious person, really, but I mean, there are people on our team that are very religious, and I respect that.
Yep.
But I just find it absurd that you think God cares about your sports match. Like, I'm pretty sure a lot of Christians are also just like, yeah, I don't think God cares about this. Like,
well, nobody living or divine should care about soccer.
I'm
sorry to say.
You should try watching it sometime. It's very entertaining, especially in the World Cup. They're not playing for money. They're playing for. I think sports are at their best when it's like an Olympic World Cup situation where they're not getting paid to do it. They're just literally they're playing for their country, which I think like makes it so that the competition is more genuine and it's more desperate. And yeah, so I think that's the best context to watch any sport, really.
Okay, I can give you that. Country pride.
Yeah, exactly.
It would explain why the USA is already out.
So the United States squeaks into the elimination rounds and then gets knocked out the first round every single time because we're just slightly better than average. but not elite.
So you're like the Vikings,
Stretch to the imagination.
right? So you're like the Vikings.
Pretty much, yeah.
You just squeak into the playoffs, and then out you go.
Yep.
I can get behind
So,
that.
yeah, pretty much, because all the good athletes in the United States either play basketball or football. So, American football.
What would you say about hockey?
I mean, that's true too. There's a lot of Americans play hockey, but bar none, also in baseball too. They go into baseball.
Mm.
Hockey and soccer are not nearly as popular as American football is. That's for sure.
Yeah, you got that right. Holy crap.
Obviously, it depends on the state you live in, because if you live in Minnesota, it's the other way around. Hockey's more popular than football here.
That's because
But
the Wild kind of know how to win. But
that's true. But I'm just talking about youth hockey too.
Oh my God.
It's an institution here.
It really is. Because I actually, my job takes me to neighborhood after neighborhood after neighborhood. And if you want to hear something like completely creepy, you think Santa knows a lot about you. Think about your delivery driver, okay?
Yes, that is so true.
I know, as a delivery driver, and I'm not talking about every delivery driver, but I'm just saying my own thing. I know about everybody. I know what you order. I know what you're getting. I know, like what I know when you're home because I'm always there. Because you can't freaking go to a store anymore. Got to order it.
Yep.
But I cannot tell you how many times I go into these neighborhoods and these courts, and they have like their entire backyard is set up as a hockey rink.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I actually this was back just before the big snow or whatever. But somebody had like they had the sideboards up and everything and the whole thing all set up, and they had a hose going into it, filling it up with water.
Yeah.
I mean, there had to have been at least 1.5 feet of water in this thing that they were pumping into it. And I'm like, holy God. I'm like, I can't even imagine what your water bill would be.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Like, damn, maybe be a little bit more conservative with the water you're putting in there. And maybe you should wait until it's actually, because we had like a week of really cold weather and then it warmed back up again and everything melted. And now we're still in that like weird limbo period of it's over freezing during the day and then freezes at night. So it's still not even optimal to have a rink right now. So
yeah, but they are, and if they don't have a rink in their backyard, they have like some setup in their garage with nets and like this thing that's supposed to play as a goalie. You have to hit it around. I see that all the time. Youth hockey, holy garbage. Yeah, it's very, very popular here in Minnesota. Alive and well. If only they did that for golf, I'd be a much happy person.
Yeah, unfortunately, we live in a state where you cannot play golf year round. So
you can. It's just hard.
That's an understatement. It's hard to play golf in the winter. It's not impossible. I mean, I guess if you want to go outside and get an orange ball and then have to, dig through the snow for your ball because it gets plugged in the snow every time you hit it. I guess you can do that if you want, but
yeah, I mean, my score would probably be 320, but I bet you I could do it.
That'd be the worst experience of my life. That would be so terrible.
It really would. It really would. All right. But getting back into other things that are weird.
Is this a paranormal show?
Apparently.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I thought I was just here to talk about
sports.
Whatever,
Well, yeah. I mean, what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip this first like 10 minutes and I'm going to send it to K-Fan as an audition tape.
K-Fan.
Well, sure. We can talk about sports and how much soccer sucks and how popular football is.
I like soccer. So
Well,
Soccer doesn't
nobody's
suck.
perfect, Sam.
See, I just like all sports pretty much. I can get into pretty much any sport.
What?
Yeah.
That normally I'd be. This is where I would sarcastically be like, well, that's exactly what I tell people about you. But no, like you have never period mentioned sports ever in like any conversation we have ever had, except for this one.
I mean, because I don't make it my entire personality like some people do. Like, you meet so many people that the only thing they know how to talk about is sports. I go to a family event and I have like 5 people in my family where I've only ever heard them talk about the weather and sports. And that's it, because they don't know how to talk about anything else. So I've been watching hockey, I've been watching football since I was little. I played tennis in high school. You know, I like sports. I just don't make it my entire personality. I'm a
Okay.
casual sports enjoyer.
I get that. Okay.
You will not catch me betting on sports. You will not catch me making a fantasy football team. No, none of that.
I did fantasy football a few years ago. We don't need to get into that though. But
I'm guessing you did have a great time.
it wasn't bad. But like I said, we don't need to get into that. But
No, we don't.
It's thankfully though, we do have a topic that we do know a lot about. You know, not as much as some people, but enough to pass it by, and we love it enough to talk about it all the time.
Yes.
Especially for me for the last 5 years on this wonderful show, and that is the paranormal.
Yeah.
So, like I said, we got a great show for everyone. So Sam and I are going to do another batch of listener emails.
Should I tell a bit more about myself so people have more context for where I'm coming from?
If you want to, have at it.
I mean, this can be very brief, but we obviously like hinted at it at the beginning. But like, I am a paranormal investigator on Mike's team, Odyssey Paranormal Society. I have been for, I always forget the number, almost 4 years now. Right?
Almost 4.
Almost 4 years.
In fact, I think it will be 4 in a little over a month.
That's crazy.
I think January 26th. I believe is when.
Yeah, it's something. It's sometime in January. That's the only thing I know. That's ridiculous. I've been doing this for 4 years.
Oh, it feels like 120, doesn't it?
I mean, no, it feels like a year. It feels like I've been doing it for a year. But yeah, so I've been a paranormal investigator for that long. I've always had an interest in it. I watched, ghost hunters growing up, so that's how I got a passing interest in it, and now I've been doing it. So by no means an expert. I mean, nobody should be calling themselves a paranormal expert, obviously, but I have experience now working with clients and visiting locations. I've had paranormal experiences for myself, so I will just lend my perspective as somebody who's been in the field for 4 years. So
absolutely. And that's all you can ask for. I mean, I don't say this enough. And I probably should, for the people who have been listening for a long time and have heard Dave and I do stories after story after story, week after week. Is we only lend our opinions and our advice as we know it.
Yeah.
Nothing that we say should be taken as fact or in written in stone, or that's the only way that it can be. Unless we're talking about Ouija boards, or there are certain things you can take what we say as fact. Okay, so most of the stuff is our own opinion based on our, just our lives and our experiences and our knowledge. So it's up to the listener to decide whether that helps them or not figure out what is going on, or if that makes sense to them. So obviously, you and I don't always agree on certain. I mean, we typically do, but we don't always. So yeah, we'll see how these stories go, because like I said before the show to you, I'm interested in hearing some of your answers to these. So I will start
Awesome.
with story number 1, titled "Did I Encounter Something Paranormal?" Question mark. Just so you guys know, I'm not an avid believer in the paranormal. I mean, I know that these things probably do exist, but it's not something I'm obsessed with or think about all the time. I do, however, have one story, an encounter maybe, from 15 plus years ago that I can't seem to forget, and I'm curious to hear what you guys think. I was 13 or 14 and was coming back from my math tutoring class. It was winter, very snowy, and it was maybe 6 or 7 p.m. It was dark and quiet outside. The street was also dead, but the street lights were on. I was maybe 500 meters away from my house when I saw a man, maybe 15 to 20 meters away, walking towards me. What I remember is that he was quite short and bulky, walked slowly too, but I didn't see him well. Sometime later, I realized that his kind of shape and his walk reminded me of the Penguin from the Batman movie played by Danny DeVito. Just FYI, I wasn't obsessed with that movie either or the character, and it's not something I just imagined. Anyway, I didn't pay much attention to him, but as he was approaching, I looked at his face. It was exactly like my father's face. Also, FYI, my dad is alive and well, and he's much taller and thinner. So it was as if his exact face was plastered on the short and bulky man. Also, I had a perfect vision at that time. He slowly passed by and didn't stop. I don't think he even looked at me. I continued walking. It took me about 10-ish seconds to realize what I had saw. By the time he was already 8 to 10 meters behind me. By that time he was already 8 to 10 meters behind me. I stopped and turned back, and apparently he also stopped a few seconds before me, and he was turned towards me. He was just standing there for a few seconds, just staring at me while I was looking at him. He didn't say a word. We were just staring at each other for a bit. Then he just turned away and continued slowly walking in the opposite direction. I didn't see him ever again either, which on one hand makes sense, but I also lived in a small town and knew my neighborhood quite well, i.e., I saw the same people often. I still don't know what that was. Could it be something paranormal or just a random creepy coincidence? Like, I did not expect he would turn back exactly when I turned back. And his face too. It was my dad's face 100%. Same mustache, nose, eyes, everything. And imagine two strangers just staring at each other for sometimes seemingly for no reason. Like it's not something you do with a stranger. What do you think it was? Okay. There's two things. I know I'm holding up 4 fingers, but each each hand represents 2 things. So, one, you could have been looking at what we call a time slip, where people when they get older, especially when they get older, sometimes they shrink and they let themselves go because they don't, especially when you retire and you don't have, like that work, stuff, you get plump, but your face doesn't necessarily change all that much. You may get a little puffier, but it could definitely have been something where, for whatever reason, you and your future father were walking down the same street and happened to see each other. And if he saw you, which he probably did, he might have had the exact same reaction you did, which was, that kid has the face of my son. What the hell is going on? So he obviously is going to turn around and look right at you as well. Why no words were actually said, I don't know, but that's between you two. The other thing, which is also a time slip, is that you were seeing your future self. If you're your father's son, you're probably going to have a lot of his same features. And as you grow up, you might actually, people see it all the time. You look exactly like your mother. You look exactly like your father. People say it all the time. I don't know if that takes place here. If you look a lot like your father or whatnot, I typically don't look like anybody in my family because I take after my grandfather. The only blonde in my family, so nothing that wouldn't really matter, or that wouldn't really come into play. Let me say, that wouldn't come into play if I were in this situation.
See, I didn't want to make a joke.
No.
I do want to make a joke. Just like, I didn't know you had blonde hair because, to be honest, I've never seen your hair.
That is true. I started shaving it, and now it's partly. Well,
I guess it does. I guess it does have like a lighter shade to it. I've definitely seen it when you haven't shaved it as closely, and it definitely does have a lighter shade to it.
It's now dirty blonde, but if you look at pictures of me in like elementary school, it's very blonde. It just kind of darkened, and now it's just gray. So gray and balding. So now it's just gone. I'll take a pink head over gray hair any day. But yeah. So I mean, if there's anything, it could be your future self, which is probably why when it passed, it might have brought up that memory. Let's just say in 50 years or something, you walk past this kid who looked exactly like you as a kid, and you're remembering, oh my God, did I just come to this place in time? We pass each other. That's kind of my take on it. Otherwise, yeah, creepy person. But I don't know why this person would just be walking, and unless they live there, and some may live in another neighborhood, but if it's a small town, you typically see the same people, and everyone. So I mean, if you're talking about Minneapolis, creepy person, just somebody that looked exactly like your father. But if it's a small town, little different situation.
Yeah, I would definitely say that it is, especially if you live in a small town, it is like that makes the chances of meeting somebody that just happens to look like somebody even slimmer. I'm not saying that wasn't the situation. I mean, it definitely could have been, but I was thinking more along the lines of doppelgangers. But I haven't heard a lot of theories and experiences with doppelgangers where they have a different body type than the person that they resemble, but also not a lot of people are like specifying body type when they are talking about a doppelganger. They just kind of focus on the face part. Like, the first thing you notice about a person when you see them is their face, right? You're not exactly paying attention to, I guess it depends on the person. Sometimes you see their shape first, but yeah, I was thinking about doppelganger. But
I'll just say, if you ask women, men look at their face last.
Men look at other people's faces last?
No. If you ask women, men look at their faces last.
Oh, okay.
I see. I was pretty much just making a joke that men are pigs. So, okay. Back to your answer.
Yeah. So that's where my mind went to right away, but I don't have a lot of experience or like knowing about doppelganger stuff. But I liked your time slip theory. I have no idea what would cause that to happen. Obviously, like most things in the paranormal, it's just you're at the right place at the right time. But yeah, that is an interesting thing to think about, of seeing your future self or seeing your dad in the future. But honestly, if we're being real, you probably saw someone that looked scarily like your dad. Which is definitely creepy. So yeah. I know,
Right.
Great insight into that, but
no. And the only reason you said it, the only reason I didn't go doppelganger is because of the different body type. It's people just say it looked exactly like my mom, or it looked exactly like my dad, or looked exactly like my friend. Whoever it was looked exactly like him. And I guess I always took that as same body shape, same face, same everything. So no body, description needed to be made. So I mean, that's the only reason that I didn't go doppelganger was simply because of that. As for time slips, I honestly don't know how they work either. I know a lot of people experience them, especially if they go into the past. I've always kind of did that. That's maybe a memory of a past life that's kind of coming to the surface for some reason. The only thing that I can think of is if it wasn't a time slip, a dimensional shift where you just kind of went someplace else for a brief second and then obviously either returned or didn't return. This isn't part of my answer whatsoever, but I'm curious since it's here and was just brought up by me. But
really stimulating your own conversations here.
Well, when a question comes up, you got to ask. That reminds me. I got a message to Jada because I have a question for her about audio. But do you think if there is some sort of dimensional door, whatever, that whether it moves around, whether it shifts and somehow you go in it and something is different for a little bit and then, it disappears or, you go on with your life and you think you've had a paranormal experience. Do you think that you go back into the same dimension that you were just in? Or do you think that you are now in a completely different dimension, leading a slightly different life?
I guess at first thought, when I think about it, I don't think you would return to the dimension you were in, because I think that would take a lot of energy to go somewhere and then go back. So I feel like it's kind of like you get bumped to a different dimension, a different plane, if you will. And then you just kind of stay there. And then you're on that different trajectory. You're on that different path. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me that you would just kind of get bumped back unless, like you said, it was just some sort of pocket that you enter and then you get out of. But also, like, I feel like you would know some sort of like warp happened if you did indeed like jump to a different dimension. At least that's what I think, but who knows?
Well, I mean, people say that, especially in the quantum mechanics or whatever, that every outcome of every decision you make, gets its own alternate reality. That you have made all of those decisions and all of those outcomes have come true, but you just continue on whatever this pathway is.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you even know if, let's just say, the pathway that you sidestepped into accidentally, the only thing different from it was that, like, you're out of cereal or something like that?
Yeah.
So, I mean, would you know if it wasn't obviously, my car is silver. If I suddenly had some sort of thing happen to me and all of a sudden my car is red, yeah, I'm going to notice.
Yeah.
But I mean, if it's such a slight difference, would you?
I mean, I don't think you would. Obviously, our brains don't notice the littlest things every day. Like, our brains are really good at missing information, especially mine, because I have ADHD. So I'm even worse at noticing things I'm not actively looking for. Like, I'm convinced that, but I mean, there's also like actual like psychological tests where, they have you look at a picture and they don't tell you what, or they tell you to look for a specific thing, and then they ask you a question about something that was very obviously there, but you weren't looking for it, so your brain didn't register it was there. I forget what it's called, but it's also the reason why lineups, how they gather suspects together and they put them in a lineup and they ask you to pick who did it. That's why that's very ineffective, because our brain will just basically our memory is not reliable at all, and our brain will just make up things to fill in the gaps and then convince ourselves that that's what you're actually seeing. And I know those are kind of like two different things, but yeah, I don't think you would notice. But also, like, you can make the argument that if you jump dimensions, who's to say that your consciousness just adjusts immediately? Or maybe you inhabit the conscience that you in that dimension had.
Mhm.
I don't know. Who knows? It's interesting to think about, though.
Yes, indeed. All righty. You're up, Mr. Albus.
Okay, story number 2, paranormal vehicles. I experienced an odd event this past evening. I was working on my vehicle well past dark. It's real foggy and misting. Looked out at the road and saw a car slowing down. Not many people drive by, and so I thought it might be someone else who lives there. So I look around, and all vehicles are accounted for. I look back, and the vehicle was slowing down to an almost complete stop. Looked like a large sedan or an SUV. I looked away for a short moment, and the vehicle is gone. Just completely vanished. Never heard it accelerate or anything. There isn't anywhere for it to turn off but the driveway. So I walk the short ways to the end of the driveway, and there is no sign of the car. Has anyone else experienced something along these lines of a vanishing car, ghost cars, or any reliable, relevant information? Yes, I have heard this before, and it is in relation to the Men in Black. I've almost exclusively heard this in association with the Men in Black, where they'll pull up with no sound, no car sound at all, get out, do whatever they were doing, whether it is interrogating you or somebody else, and then you look away and you look back and the car is gone. So I've definitely heard that before. There's a lot of stories about the Men in Black that involve this sort of thing. And actually, somebody that you had on the show, I forget his name. He's from Australia, right?
Craig Powell.
Yep, Craig Powell told a story about this when he was doing research for a documentary at the time. He was actually visited by the Men in Black. And that is one of the things that he remembers when he just kind of comes out of the trance that he was in, that all of a sudden the car was gone and he tried to chase and it was completely gone in an instant. So you are definitely not alone in this. Other people have definitely experienced it.
Yes. It's I'm so ecstatic right now. Because
What, that I knew that I knew what it's from?
well, that you went straight to the Men in Black.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I for my answer, because we read these obviously separately,
Mhm.
and you know, we don't talk about what our answers are beforehand. And so I mean, I was going to talk about ghost vehicles in general, and then talk about the whole disappearing car thing and the Men in Black. And
Mhm.
the fact that you went straight to the Men in Black is amazing.
Yeah, that honestly, that's just immediately what I thought of, because when I heard, because I believe I just listened to the episode when Craig was on, I was just like, that's creepy as shit.
Oh,
You
what
know?
Craig went through, it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
But yeah, and what you're referring to is when he had visitors who somehow paralyzed him right at his front door and gave his cat a seizure. But when he finally was able to go, he saw them like walking down the driveway, which I think he said was like 75 feet or something like that. And
Yeah.
you can see like 400 yards in every direction, and they disappeared. Like there was no car, no them, no nothing. And yeah, they just disappeared. But did they? Did they disappear, or do they have some sort of ability to cloak themselves?
Mhm.
Um, I mean, I know that's about as sci-fi as you can get, the whole, you know,
Pretty
cloaking
much.
device thing. But I mean,
Yep.
honestly, we've been working on that shit for years. You know, the ability to have some sort of suit that bends light around and makes us, you know, pretty much invisible. And that's just stuff we're working on. I mean, if we're talking about whether they're reptilians or whether there's some government agency that
Whether they're extraterrestrials themselves.
exactly
Some
there,
people theorize that they are extraterrestrials as well.
Well, they definitely have that kind of feel to them.
Yeah.
The feeling that there's just not something right about them. I
Hmm.
mean, even back in the Mothman days, like you would see that black sedan, roll up. All four doors would open at once. All four people would get out at once, in synchronized, and they would just be pale. They'd all be wearing obviously the black suits, which gives them the Men in Black, type thing. And then they would go, yeah, and they would have a conversation with you, and then they would disappear.
Yep. And then they'd hold up a silver pen and press the button, and it would flash, and then you wouldn't remember anything that happened.
Yeah, no. Because if nobody remembers anything, we wouldn't have the stories.
Yeah, I know. I was making a very weak joke about the films.
I know. And that's why I couldn't allow it. I made the joke for Sam.
Yeah, no, you're the only one that can make the jokes. Yeah, I get it now.
I'm the comedy relief here,
yes.
Sam. We all have our job. So, but yeah, why the Men in Black? Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that the car you saw was in essence the Men in Black, or some vehicle. But why they were there, I don't know. I guess this person would have to see if there were any sightings. They would have to talk to the neighbor to see if they had some sort of encounter that maybe they do or do not talk about, and see if something warrants such an arrival or such a visit. I mean, they obviously didn't get out of the car and go talk to these people, because it just kind of slowed down and then disappeared.
Yeah.
So why, I don't know. I'm just glad that it wasn't for that guy. He just happened to see him. Or do they have the ability to? I don't want to get into any sort of conspiracy theories, but
yeah, you do. Of course you want to get into conspiracy theories.
No, because we got a lot more stories to do and everything, and it just go on and on. But I mean, if they have the ability to cloak themselves, who's to say they're not around all the time? And we just don't perceive them. Or do they have the ability to change people's perception of, can certain people see the car and certain people can't? I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, honestly, I think maybe it's sort of a situation where you weren't supposed to see the car, and then they were like, oh shit, there's a person. And then maybe they did, cloak the car. We're obviously entirely speculating right now. But I think I agree that I don't think they were. I mean, I'm obviously in the camp that if it's anything, I think it's probably Men in Black. That's what I would like to believe anyway, because that's the most interesting answer, I think. But I don't think they were there for you. Luckily, they might just be, patrolling the area. There might have been a sighting. I would definitely you'd be surprised when you ask people about UFOs or the paranormal, how many stories people have that they will tell you just because you asked, because just you asking about it shows that, you're probably not going to call them crazy or whatever for telling this story. If you're going to ask them, have you ever seen a UFO? Then they're probably going to tell you their story. Unless the Men in Black scared them off. But yeah, it's worth investigating a little bit. Just don't go too far, because you might get a visit otherwise.
Yeah, while we were talking with Craig and getting all of that stuff, Dave and I always made the joke that we're going to get the van.
Yeah,
the van's going to be here by the time we're done with the show, and you're never going to see us again. But we're still here. All right. Story number 3 is my dead mother trying to communicate with me. My aunt randomly texted me to tell me that she had a dream about my mother, who had passed away almost 10 years ago. I was 11, now 21. She said that in the dream, my mom told my aunt that she loved my sister and me and is part of our lives every minute, but she is focused more on me with concern. Then my aunt said that she saw a parked car, or that maybe my mom told her and showed her. She had trouble remembering. She said that this dream was nagging at her as though she needed to tell me. My question is, what should I make of this? My mom has communicated in dreams with me before briefly and only rarely. Should I be nervous about her concern or the parked car? I don't know what to do with this information, and my aunt doesn't remember anything else. So the first thing that I want to talk about is our deceased loved ones trying to communicate in general. Can they? Yes, absolutely, especially in dreams. I don't know how or why they do it, because I know a lot of people pray and beg and talk just out loud to try and get the people they miss and the people that they have lost to come to them, whether it's in dreams, whether to talk to them, to do anything, to give them a sign, and nothing will happen. But somebody who, is like a family friend, but not like the children or not like the parent, will get a dream with them in it. And that's where like the messages will come across. I don't know why that happens. I don't know if it's an openness thing to it. Like, I mean, if you're closed-minded about the paranormal and you lose, like, let's just say a parent, and you really want to talk to them, you don't suddenly open up your mind to the paranormal. Yes, you want to talk to them, but you're still going to be closed-minded about everything. So does that close you off to that? I got into the paranormal after my mother passed away, and I can count on one hand how many times she has, I believe, come to me. And it's always been when I'm in need. Whether emotionally, you just get the point in your life where the one thing that you want and need more than anything is like the just your mother's hug, something like that. She did that for me once. It was amazing. It was the first time that she did actually come to me. The other time was weird. I don't really need to get into it. But something was going on spiritually. I mean, not known to me, but something was trying to do something to me. And her and my grandfather were there to try and protect me. But otherwise, nothing. I was very, very, very close to my grandmother. Haven't seen her once. So, I mean, does that mean they don't have any messages, or does it just mean that I don't? It's not that I say I don't need them, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't. I know my mom's around, and I'm fine with that. So, I mean, the whole dream part of this, where your aunt gets a dream about your mother, who then wants to pass that on to you. I don't know what's going on in your life. I would just take a look at what could she be concerned about, and try to make it so that it's not a concern. A parked car, I have no idea. I don't know if it actually has anything to do with your life whatsoever. So, I mean, I would I worry about the parked car? No. It's a parked car. The only thing that I could think of is like you're going to drive into it and it's going to like put you in debt because the person's going to sue you or something like that. So I guess be aware of it, but I really wouldn't worry about it. And if there is something going on in your life that you think your mother would be concerned about, then I would just take a step back and see if you can change some things about it that would make her less concerned.
Yeah. I was also confused about the parked car bit. I was just like, I'm getting the feelings that I think that's kind of irrelevant, or at least not really important in the grand scheme of things. I think the important part is that, you know, especially if your aunt says that she's had dreams before where she's been communicated with, um yeah, I think I agree with what Mike said of just kind of taking a look at your life to see what she could be concerned about. Um, but I lost my train of thought. I was gonna go somewhere with that, and now I don't know where I was gonna go.
It happens all the time.
Fantastic. Love it. Let's see. What should I make for this? My mom has communicated. I mean, just I don't know, don't be wary, but just kind of I guess it's just a good signal to be open to things that are to come, and also just kind of be mindful of what you're doing. I mean, I think it's always good practice to be mindful, and I've been practicing that more lately, doing things that are kind of adjacent to meditation to kind of figure out where my mind is at. Honestly, like, I think you're pretty lucky to have, even a little bit of communication with somebody who's passed away, if it is indeed what happened. But oh yeah, here's where I was going to go with that. I was going to talk about like the dream portion of it. Um, obviously we don't even know where dreams come from. We don't even know why we dream. We don't know why when we sleep we enter rapid eye movement, and then that's when we dream. But also while we're dreaming, that's the most important part of sleep. So it's that whole thing is very interesting to me. So who the hell knows what happens when we dream, and the way our like brains change when we dream, and if that makes us more open to receiving these messages or not, or if this dream was completely irrelevant and it was just something that your aunt dreamed about, and it was completely just something that her brain made up, because our brains are freaking weird. But honestly, I'm I think I'm more on the side because I'm of your mother actually trying to communicate with you, because I know a ton of people have experiences with this. And of course, I'm a paranormal investigator, so I do believe there is something that happens after we die. Who knows what that is? But so, yeah, I mean, take a good look and take a good reflection, and be mindful. But I don't think you need to fret like it's the end of the world. Moms are always concerned about something. That's just what being a mom is about. So maybe she's concerned that you might not be taking, as good of care of yourself as you could. So be mindful, practice some self-care, and don't worry too much about it.
Good.
Pretty bow on top of that answer. Okay, on to the next story. Is my wife hallucinating, psychotic, seeing the spirit realm, or something else? My wife and I have been together for 10 years, and she has recently started seeing and hearing things that, as far as I can tell, are not there. It started with music a few months ago, and it seemed to her to be coming from electronics and appliances in our home, such as the fridge, air purifier, furnace, etc. More recently, she has shared that she is seeing people in the neighbor's backyard and even on the rooftops of houses in our neighborhood, as she and they watch a ghostly parade go by on our street. I've comforted myself with the thought that it is likely due to her sleep problems, as these experiences seem to consistently occur at night. Hypnagogic? Hypnagogic? I've never heard that word before.
Hypnagogic.
Hypnagogic?
Yeah.
Okay. That comfort is wearing thin, as learned today. There may also be voices, and that she has felt threatened. Edit, last night she even claimed to have physical contact, being pushed into the counter after trying to move a Christmas bell decoration that chimed on its own. Her mother knows all about all this and has said that she has heard and seen them too. So they're getting out the sage in time to ward off what they think is the presence of evil. Can two people be wrong about this? Her grandmother also has heard similar strange things and moved out of the city to escape it. Has anyone had or known someone with this experience? We have small children, so I'm concerned for their safety should this continue to get worse. So, first of all, I'm going to kind of go point by point here because there's a few. I don't want to make a blanket statement for everything that's mentioned in this question. So, about the music coming from appliances like fridge, air purifier, furnace, that can easily be matrixing in my experience. Some frequencies that come out of appliances can easily. Our brains always want to make something out of nothing, and especially with melodies we will hear melodies in things that do not contain melodies at all. So that could definitely be matrixing. And I'm actually thinking that's the most likely thing. But responding to the points of your wife seeing things in the yard and also the experience with physical contact, it seems like to me that your wife might have some sort of sensitive abilities, some psychic abilities that she's able to see spirits, and especially what makes it especially compelling to me is that her grandmother and her mother also experienced this, because it's very common to have these abilities be passed down from generation to generation. Especially, I've heard, and I don't know the actual statistics on this because nobody's doing statistics on this. I hear it very commonly through the maternal line in people's family. Like, I know someone personally whose mother and grandmother all have psychic abilities. So, I've heard it's like the common thing for a lot of people who have psychic abilities, where they grow up being able to see things and hear things that other people can't hear, and they go through their lives often feeling like they're the only ones that go through these experiences, but it's just simply not true. A lot of people go through these things. And I will also say I have a brother who is schizophrenic, and I've talked at length with him about what hallucinations are like. And from the little information you're giving me here, it's not giving me vibes that it would be some sort of, and I'm not a mental health professional, please don't take this as medical advice, but from my own experiences and what I know about psychosis, this doesn't seem like that to me. It seems more along the lines of psychic abilities. So I don't think she's crazy. I think she might have abilities that she doesn't fully understand or know how to use or to turn off, and doesn't really understand what she's seeing. So, in that regard, I would try to take a more supportive stance to what she's going through, and know that this sort of situation I don't think is dangerous to your kids. I don't think is dangerous to you, but it might be worth looking for a reliable source to try to get her to understand what she's seeing and what she's hearing a little bit better. So that's my take on the whole thing.
So I'm going to take three different roads here.
Okay.
Because I think that it can be one of these. The first one being EMF, high EMF. Because that type of sensitivity would be right along the lines of why she's experiencing stuff, but he is not.
Mm-hmm.
If he's not sensitive, but she is, it is also something that I believe is passed down through the line as well. The family line has high EMF sensitivity. That obviously causes paranoia, which would make you feel threatened. It causes hallucinations, and it could build, over time. So I mean, it could have started with you could have started with obviously the fridge and the purifier, because that would be energy that is being given off by these appliances that she is then picking up. And I know that some of them, if they could be on frequency, kind of as you were talking about, could sound like music.
Yep.
So, um, and obviously with prolonged exposure, that could lead to hallucinations and like. And if my question, I guess, would be, where are the relatives experiencing this? I mean, is the mother experiencing the same stuff that she is in their house, or is it at her house, or is it in other places? That would be one question to ask. So I mean, if that's something that is going on, obviously it's easy to take care of. You simply just need to get an EMF detector and go around and see if you have unshielded wiring, to see if your furnace is giving off like 180 instead of 8, and then you can repair it. So that's one road. The second road, obviously, and again, as Sam said, we are not medical professionals.
No.
So don't take this as any sort of diagnosis because it isn't. But simply have her go in and get checked, see if there's something going on. It doesn't mean that there's going to be. It doesn't mean that we think that she's crazy or has psychosis, but let's get rid of things that we can actually get rid of.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever a bad thing to rule things out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what we try to do, is we try to rule things out.
Exactly.
The third one is, as you said, Sam, that she does have abilities that for some reason have surfaced. Don't know why. I mean, obviously it would depend on what is going on in her life. Is she like extremely stressed out about something? Is something going on in her life that is causing the shift in her energy that has brought these things to the surface? I find it interesting that her and like spirits on top of the roof are watching a ghost parade. That's a little concerning to me. I don't know if the spirit world has the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, but it would be interesting to. I'm gonna have to ask Cena about that. But that's a little off for me. Like I don't know why she would be thinking about that, or why she would be seeing a ghost parade. Maybe that happens all the time and we don't know.
See, I took that more, and this just could be me giving too much of a benefit of a doubt, but I took that more of like a turn of phrase as to like how many things she's seeing outside of the house, that it's almost like a parade of sorts, but could be me just being too lenient.
No, I understand. I mean, you definitely could be right. I mean, that's just it's a question that we would ask.
Yeah.
Can you describe this parade a little bit more?
Yeah, I'm curious about this parade situation.
But I mean, when you have abilities like that, you're going to attract spirits. They're going to try to get your attention, which is why the bell could have been rung. I don't necessarily know why you got shoved. You could just be dealing with a jackass who, doesn't like the fact that you took away his only ability to try and get your attention. So he tried something else. It could be any number of things. I agree with Sam. I don't think your kids are in any danger.
No.
So 3 avenues to go down. And 2 of them are very, very easily fixable. The other one is fixable too. You just requires a little bit more effort on all of your parts. The only other thing that I would add to this is, if it is abilities, saging is not really going to do very much.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that, but yeah, go ahead.
No, that's all right. And I mean, it may help for a while, but sage is only meant to calm the energy down in the house.
Yeah.
I don't know why you would add time to that. Maybe I'm just.
I was also going to say, keep that for your cooking. It's not doing anything.
Yeah. Nobody's like, well, I don't have sage, but I have time. So I'll just go ahead and use that to cleanse my house. No, not going to work. Okay. So you're just going to burn a seasoning.
See, I'm even in the camp of I'm skeptical that sage even does anything. Like, I think a lot of that for a lot of people is placebo. I think when people are performing cleansings and they're using sage, they are doing other things to give that thing sort of power. But that's
well,
just me.
well, it is intent. I mean, you got to
Yeah,
have the intent.
exactly.
So I mean, there definitely could be something to that. All right, moving on because I really want to get to these next two.
Okay.
All right, turn number 5. Are shadow people afraid of us? Whenever I watch a video regarding found footage of them, they always peek out of corners, and when you look, they quickly hide back and are gone. This happens in all of the footages. I'm so curious why. Is it fear? Is it a secret society that doesn't want us to know them yet and peek out from time to time from different dimensions? Aliens? Demons? Okay,
It's not a demon.
it's not a demon. The first thing, this is one of the main reasons why I picked this, is it's almost the same thing as a poltergeist. People do not understand that there is a difference between shadow people and shadow figures.
Yeah.
The black figures or whatever that you see peeking around the corner and then duck away are shadow figures. They're just partially manifested, human spirits who, either want to see if you're there or not, or, I don't know why they peek around. It's one of the questions that I have too. It happens all the time. You see them on the corner eye and then they're gone. They peek around the corner and then they're gone. Do they just not want to bother you? Or what? I don't necessarily think it's fear. They're dead. What do they fear? What are they fearful of? Shadow people are different. Shadow people do not fear us whatsoever. They don't like us really in any way, shape, or form. But they are definitely from a different dimension. They are inhuman spirits. They're not demons. So I mean, I think because people first got introduced to the term inhuman spirit was always in like a demonic case, possible demonic case in ghost hunters, that people just think that all hidden human spirits are demons. That is not correct. An inhuman spirit is just a spirit who has never been human. So demons, angels, elementals, shadow people, they all can be considered inhuman spirits. We can't get rid of them. Sage isn't going to work. Catholic cleansings aren't going to work. You cannot get rid of a shadow person. Shadow figures, on the other hand, obviously you can, because they're human spirits, just like any other spirit that you would encounter. So no, they don't like us. Chances are, if you have a shadow person, you might as well move, because unless you
Kind
bore
of the
them,
only option you have.
Yeah, because you can't get rid of them. They're not from here. So all of our abilities to get rid of human spirits or even demons do not work, because they are not from here. So I picked this for the very specific purpose of making sure people understand the difference between the two. And also that just because a manifestation is black does not mean that it's evil or dark, or it's dark, but I mean that as a color, not as a mentality. It just means that it's a partial manifestation, and they show up black before all the other details and stuff start coming in.
It's basically a shadow. That's why they're called shadow figures. You're just seeing a shadow, and 99% of the time they're absolutely harmless.
Yeah. So I mean, that's just my answer. Sam, if you have a different take on it, have at it.
I mean, no, I really don't have a different take on it. I was just, I also don't know why shadow figures seem to always peek around corners and always, it's always out of the corner of their eye. Maybe they don't like being seen. They don't want to be seen. Who knows what's happening? All I know is that when you see something out of the corner of your eye and that's the only thing you're seeing, you really don't have anything to worry about. They're probably just curious, or they're just trying to keep tabs on you, whatever. If you have a shadow person following you, you'll probably know, because it's going to be much more than just seeing things around your apartment or whatever.
Yeah. All
Okay.
right. Last one.
The last one. 3 knocks, coincidence or bad luck? Me and my father were downstairs watching football, and I heard 3 knocks, one after another. It was something like knock, 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 3 knocks. I asked my whole family if they had heard it, but they said they didn't hear anything. At first, I thought I made it up in my head, and that I was losing my sanity. I woke up at 3:36 a.m. to my dad getting a call that my grandfather passed away. Is this bad luck, or is it the 3 knocks? So there is this theory, this belief that 3 knocks is a sign of a demonic presence. It's directly associated with Christianity. I am very skeptical about the 3 knock thing, especially since we have been in situations where completely naturally occurring things produce sounds that sound like the 3 knocks, whether it be a pipe banging against a wall, whether it be air going through ducts, whether it be just an animal pecking 3 times on the wall. Just because you hear 3 knocks does not mean that it is the sign of a demon, does not mean there is an evil presence there. I honestly think this is a coincidence. There's just so many natural explanations as to why you heard those knocks, that usually I like to entertain the idea that it could be something paranormal, but I truly just believe that it's an unfortunate coincidence that happened. And I'm very sorry to hear about your grandfather passing, but I do not think the knocks have anything to do with it.
So I'm going to answer this in 2 different ways. First, I'm going to talk about the 3 knocks in general. And you are right. A lot of people in the paranormal, whether they're investigators, whether they're ghost hunters, whatever, believe that if somebody starts talking about 3 knocks, they instantly go to, could this be a possible demonic entity?
Thank you, Ed and Lorraine Warren, for that.
Exactly. And I was actually going to bring that up. And I asked Michelle Belanger straight out, because she is the author of the Dictionary of Demons. If there's anybody who is going to know where that, 3 knocks is a mocking of the Holy Trinity and is a demonic,
Yep.
where that came from, she's going to know. Is it in the Bible? Is it, wherever? And she said flat out, I never heard that before until Lorraine Warren.
Yep.
And I don't think that is actually, I think that I love Ed and Lorraine Warren. I think they did an amazing job for this field. But
Yep.
I think back when they did like the Amityville case or whatever, they do what producers do today. They amplified it, they exaggerated, they made it to be way, way more intense than it actually was.
Yep.
And I do believe that they made some stuff up.
Yep. They were not infallible. That's for sure. Much respect for them for literally pioneering how we do paranormal investigation today. But they did some not so great stuff too. So we shouldn't be idolizing anybody in that regard.
Right. I think they saw a way of making money as to not really hurt anybody doing it. And it snowballed on them big time. But that being said, that's aside. Like I said, I have a lot of respect for Ed and Lorraine Warren and the things that they did. I just think that they did some things they really didn't need to, but at the time, who really thought that was going to come to what it is today? I also have a very, very hard time believing that 1 knock is human, 2 knocks is human, 3 knocks is demonic, 4 knocks is human. Like it does not.
It doesn't make logical sense.
It doesn't make any sense. So,
especially like when you knock on a door, how many knocks do you do? Literally think about it. I always do 3. It's
3 or 4.
Always 3. 1, 2, 3. Like,
yeah, it's 3 or 4.
Just think about it.
Yeah, they even did Sheldon in The Big Bang Theory. It was always 3 knocks. It was 3 knocks 3 times. So
well,
I mean,
see, I would argue that Sheldon is actually a demon. So
he's just misunderstood.
Yeah.
But so I'm throwing out that I've actually had it hasn't been this team, and I'm again so proud of you guys. But I have had renditions of this team where I throw out, like a list of claims for a case that we got called in to do. And one of them is they heard 3 knocks. Right away, people are apprehensive. Right away. And it's like, you don't even know if that's even relevant. So throw that out. Now, could that be your grandfather, after he had passed, coming to the house to say goodbye? And that was his way of doing it. Yes, absolutely. Is it a sign of bad luck? No. Like, I don't even know where people would get that. Like, that just sounds to me like a superstition. Like, if you step on a crack, you break your mom's back. Or if you smash your mirror, you have 7 years bad luck. Like, that's ridiculous. So when you hear 3 knocks, it's not bad luck. So it either, as Sam said, a complete coincidence, and you heard 3 random knocks and you were just in the place of the house where you could hear it and nobody else could, or it was your grandfather just coming back and knocking, letting you know that he's fine, and that he's on his way to wherever it is he's going to go. I hope upstairs. But so yeah, I just really wanted to talk about that 3 knocks because I get so angry when people start talking about the 3 knocks as a mocking of the Holy Trinity, and it's obviously demonic because there's 3 knocks on the wall. No, you're crazy. So
yeah, it's made up. Stop watching. What is it? The Conjuring. Stop watching The Conjuring. I mean, it's a good movie. It's a good horror movie, but don't take that as gospel, please.
Yeah. So
no pun intended.
Yeah. So just relax. So all right. That does it for stories for this week. Enjoyed them. Again,
those are fun. Those are fun to do.
If anybody has their own paranormal questions or stories that they would like to write into whoever me and my co-host is at that time for us to respond to, OdysseyFilesRadio at gmail.com. I have so many emails. I almost had to think about that for a second. Or you could go to our Facebook page, Odyssey Files Radio Show, and send a direct message and ask. So, I mean, I probably not only would put it on the air and respond there, but I'd probably respond personally to answer your question. So don't be afraid of it just because I'm a little harsh sometimes. I think sometimes when I go off on my tangents, it makes people a little apprehensive to ask a question. But understand that I'm here to help, just as Sam is, just as Dave is, just as the rest of my team is. So OdysseyFilesRadio at gmail.com if you have any questions or stories that you would like to share and just get our opinion on it. It doesn't even have to be for the show. If you just would like, my team's opinion on whatever, you can obviously do that too.
Absolutely.
So, all righty. So hour 2, we got a little something special for everybody. And that is, I know that people love to hear paranormal stories. They love to hear the evidence. So we've kind of devised where, since Sam this is his first time co-hosting with me, and he hasn't been on for quite a long time, that we would talk a little bit, share a couple investigation stories, personal experiences, and then we have kind of a full, not a full onslaught, but we have some EVPs that we would like to share with you that we both picked out and we think are pretty cool. In fact, uh, at the end of the show, we are going to answer the question of if bodily functions continue even after death. It's going to be amazing.
Yes, it is going to be amazing. And we do have some pieces of audio to support our claims. So please stay tuned for that.
you're gonna love the fact that you did. So, all right, Sam, why don't you go first and just kind of talk about, maybe a case or an experience that you had that you still remember, that you still think about.
Absolutely. So we mentioned this place briefly earlier in the show, but there is a little place in Illinois called Ashmore Estates, and it was the first really active location that I ever investigated. We've been there twice. We hosted events there. It was absolutely incredible. If you ever get a chance to go, I recommend you do it. It's a special building. But this was our second time there. And at the time I was, and I mean, I'm still about this theory, but I was very inspired at Ashmore because it is such a responsive and active building to try out a little bit of an experiment that has that is related to music. So I am a musician, for people that don't know. I play drums in a band, I play guitar, I write songs and stuff like that. So I wanted to see if playing music live, not from a recording, me and my guitar singing, would affect anything about the energy in the building. So we went into the dining room area, or where the old cafeteria was. And that section of the building has, I mean, the whole building is like gutted. It's just, concrete now. And then the current owner installed windows. So this part is like a main room area, and then the room off to the side has like a metal roof, stuff like that. So went in there. I also had our fellow investigator Haley with me, and I had Haley's father Jeff there. He accompanied us on the trip. So I just got to playing music. I played, I think, a cover of Accentuate the Positive, which is a song that was popular in the 1940s. And then I played one of my songs. And then after I was done, everything kind of fell silent, and I, started asking questions like, did you enjoy the music? Do you like listening to live music? And we had the REM pod in the other room, and the REM pod was going off in direct responses to our questions. The K2 that we had also was going off simultaneously, which was one of the coolest personal experiences I've ever had. We did not have a camera rolling at the time because I did want it to be kind of a personal experience sort of situation. And also, we've been experimenting more lately with doing equipment light sort of things. But that was one of the first times in my investigating career where I felt like I had made a connection with spirits and was actually having a conversation. Because after I got done, the REM pod was going crazy. It was and it wasn't sometimes with our REM pod, it'll just, light up the green light and that's it. It was it was going, all four lights were on. It was going crazy. So that was a really, really cool thing. And I definitely want to do more experiments like that in the future.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because I believe it was later that night, because you were doing that during the day between the two nights that we were investigating.
Yep.
And so I think later that night we tried to, or was it the first night?
It was the second night, I believe.
Right,
The first night we didn't do anything, and then the second night before we started the investigation, I also played music.
Right. So we decided to do a little bit of another experiment with music. Sam played one of his songs as a way of like, this is what good music sounds like. And do you know, we had a REM pod, you know, at the back of the room, and it was like, you know, hey, if you appreciate the music Sam's doing, let up the REM pod. Nothing happened. Well, then we had what could be considered horrible music played by me in the accordion, which I had brought. But I brought my dad's old accordion, and I sat up there and I played it. And it was, if you want me to stop, set off the REM pod. And just to give you a little taste, I'm not going to play the whole thing. This is what it sounded like. Oh, God have mercy on all of us. And that is where the strap on my accordion broke.
Yeah, my favorite part of that is that the strap fell off. That's just like perfect.
Oh, I don't know if maybe I was just putting too much force into it, or maybe the spirits were just.
The interesting answer is that the spirits did that. The likely answer is it's an old accordion that hasn't been used in a while. It just broke.
Yep, it just broke. But I continued to play for about another minute and a half.
You did too. It was definitely harder to play once that strap broke, I think.
But the sound never got worse or better. So it just was.
And the REM pod never went off. So I guess we will never know the spirit's reaction to whatever that was.
Right. So that was what we tried to do. We do try to do some experiments. All right. So I don't really tell the story, and I don't know why, because it was amazing. I tell like bits and pieces of it. But my first investigation at the Grand Opera House in Dubuque, Iowa, which yielded some of the firsts that I'd ever encountered, like a lot of firsts. And when we're talking 6 years into my career, you know, as a paranormal investigator, and I'm experiencing firsts. This is the place where the fairy video came from. But I mean, first time I was ever there, I was with a team that I had met in person for the first time that night. Their first investigation, really, especially as a team. So it's not like they were a team before and I just kind of joined them. I had put the team together, and so they were meeting each other pretty much for like in person for the first time. We split up. Dave took a group, I took a group, and went up to the costume shop on the 5th floor. So high above the street, it's a brick building. You really can't. The only thing you can really hear is like the clock tower chime and like maybe the train whistle. That's it. Like you can't hear the street from 5 floors below. We get up to this costume shop. All you can do is walk down the middle of it because it's filled on both sides, but everything else. You know this. You've been there.
Yep.
And we started hearing disembodied voices. It was the same voice. I shouldn't even say voices. Disembodied voice. Female, almost sounded like regal. Like she just had that hello, like that, like English type of voice to her. Like you would hear in, like you would picture in like a Jane Austen novel, you know, that sort of thing. Just like that little accent to it. Full sentences. Could make out what was being said. We even had like 3 recorders going. All the recorders caught it. Still can't make out what the hell it was saying. Like it got to the point where I was just like, "Can we hear the people down on the stage?" Is it coming up the vents or something? I'm like, that's how clear, like everybody heard it. It wasn't just something that I heard. We're all looking for it. Can't find it. And it was almost about that exact same time we caught the fairy video. So first for me, not for hearing disembodied voices, but that cleared that long. Like I said, full sentences. Could not make out what it was being said. Down on the stage, or at least the theater area, I wasn't on the stage. I was up by myself, up on the top balcony. Heard footsteps for the same time walking on the stage, which I can see. Nobody's walking on the stage. Can hear them clearly. Even caught it on the recorder. And then out of nowhere, it almost sounded like an old transistor radio. Like that, like you're trying to
you're
tune
scanning
it in.
stations.
Yeah, like you're tuning it in. Just enveloped the theater. Like it wasn't just next to me. Like it was the theater area. Like I looked back at base camp because I thought somebody was messing with the equipment or whatever. Somebody was getting a piece of equipment and it went off. Nobody was there, obviously. Never heard that before in my life, and especially not anything that loud that filled that big of a room. We had so much evidence from that, the reveal, which I tried to record and then piece together into like a pilot for a show called the Paranormal Project. Was 90 minutes of just nothing but here's this clip, here's this clip, here's this clip. I mean, it was crazy that night. I love that building to death, but unfortunately, I don't know if because of what we caught and released, obviously out there, that was like a one-time deal. But I mean, obviously I've never heard that disembodied voice before, or after, I should say. I haven't heard the footsteps since. That transistor radio has never sounded again. We have never gotten as much evidence or personal experiences out of that building since. But it's being used now a lot more often. In fact, Tracy, who is now the former technical director there, said that ghost hunters wanted to film there, wanted to do an investigation at the theater. But they wanted like a week of, to block off. And he's like, we got shows, like we can't do that. So I don't know if that's ever going to get done or not or whatever, but it was an unknown. It was before, myself and the team that I had at that time got in there and got the evidence that we did. Just some, drunk, smoozers from, local would go in there like once every 3 months for a couple hours and just, do stupid shit. Like they were thrill seekers and stuff. Like they had no idea what they were doing. So, I mean, and now it's used for events. It's obviously caught the attraction of TV shows. So it's an amazing building.
It really is.
I love it to death. It's always going to be one of my favorite places, like the LeDuc Mansion, because it's going to hold a very special place for me for just that one night, because it was unbelievable what was going on at that time, and I hope one day to have some sort of investigation that matches that, just an activity, personal experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I'll keep this short, but like the energy in that theater room is something special, because when we were there doing the event, I was sitting on the stage looking up at the balcony, and the noises you hear in there, I heard just like a random like flute, like doing like a trill at one point, and I was just like, what was that? Like it has a really special energy. And we need to go back there soon because I like that place a lot. It's great.
Well, yeah, it's actually going to be something that happens probably in the spring for multiple days, because what I would like to do is I would like to, obviously, Grand Opera House. I want you guys to experience the Captain Mary's Mansion.
Yes.
And then there's a third place that I have not been to now in about 2 years, way out in the middle of nowhere, very historic place right across the border in Wisconsin, that I want you guys to experience as well. So we're looking at like almost like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, like an entire weekend where we all go down there and just do a different place every night, but stay at the Captain Mary's Mansion because it's on, Airbnb. So, but yeah. So, do you have another personal experience that you would like to share?
Yeah, for sure. So, this takes place at an undisclosed location.
Confidential location.
I mean, yeah. Whatever term you want to use. We will not be telling you where this is, but it is a historical location. So, and this is also a complicated situation because I had this experience with a person that we have found to not be trustworthy anymore. So that's, take it with a grain of salt, I guess. But this situation was not, at least the amazing side for me happens with a piece of equipment. So we were in the kitchen of this place, and we were just having a regular EVP section, and then we had a person there that had, or at least claimed to have psychic abilities. So we were having a conversation, and like, it didn't fail for at least 5 minutes. Every time we asked a question, the K2 meter that we had there went up to red and then back down, and then up to red and back down. And it wasn't in like a rhythm or anything. It was in direct response to questions. When we weren't asking a question, it was not going off. And I've tried to recreate this since. Like, every time we go back to this place, I take the K2 and I go all the way around that room, and the K2 does not go off ever. So it was another example of a time where I felt like I was having a conversation, and we almost never get reliable hits on the K2. Like, almost never get interaction with the K2. It's almost always with the REM pod or with the periscope, at least in my experience. So to get it on the K2, which is like one of the most respected and like reliable pieces of equipment in the paranormal field, was very, very cool. And we were getting like very, very detailed answers. And there were questions where we asked it and asked the question, and the spirit didn't respond. And then we'd ask a follow-up question with more clarifying details, and then the spirit would respond to that. So it was incredibly cool to have an actual conversation. And I've not experienced that since. That is the one time I've had interaction on the K2 like that. So it was very cool.
Yeah. Yep. And just for further context for this place, we shut off all power in the place.
Yes.
Like, it's not like we flip the lights off, like we pull the breakers. Like, there's no power in this place, while we are doing an investigation. So, I mean, an outlet, whatever, the clock doesn't work, so there's no EMF in that place whatsoever, when we do our sessions. So yeah, it is very rare that we get K2, like actual K2 communication, because both you and I are very dismissive of, could it be actual, like, response, or is it something that, does everybody have their phone off, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
So I mean, when we get experiences and like that. It's pretty amazing.
It
So
really is.
hold on a second here. There we go. Okay. So I mentioned a little bit ago about the historic place in just across the border into Wisconsin that I want to take my team to. It's just this hollowed out shell of a house. Used to be, it's like the oldest tavern in Wisconsin, is built in like 1834, I think, out in the middle of nowhere. And it was like along trade routes and stuff like that. That's why, it existed. And uh, it was Dave, myself, and uh, another investigator at the time. And it was during the day. We had a recorder going, obviously, but we were just walking around the house. We were just taking it all in and kind of, making sure we had all of our, we knew where we were going. We had all of our bearings. That's what I'm looking for. And upon review, we caught this absolutely class A loud ass EVP, which sounds like, when we've actually gotten confirmation, which I'll tell you about after I play it, of a native, of an Indian in that area. So I'm going to play it. I'll play it a few times for you guys, and we'll see what you guys think.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably.
Right. So obviously the voice is that rot. We had no idea what the hell that was. But we found out that used to be Winnebago land. And so we actually sent that audio clip to the Winnebago to see if if it actually was like their language, and apparently it was. And apparently it means like tree scraper, which they believe is the name of somebody obviously in their they're obviously not alive, but in their tribe. We tried to get more information, but that's kind of where our communication just kind of fizzled out.
Mhm.
So but it was an amazing EVP to catch, and I've been there a couple times since and never got it again. So just there when we needed it. So Sam is going to tell you about our latest Class A EVP that we got from a cemetery recently
Yeah.
that again shall remain nameless. And yeah, take it away.
Yeah, so we recently investigated the cemetery in question, and actually got a lot of great interaction there. It was a very interesting investigation, and I can't wait to go back when the weather's warm, because it's winter and miserable right now. But so two investigators of ours, Scott and Cameron, were in their session. Was it Scott and Cameron?
It was Scott and Cameron, yes.
Okay, cool. So and they were, you know, there are people of all ages in the cemetery. You have children there, you have people who die of old age, you have middle-aged people. So they were going along the avenue in their investigation that there might be kids there. So they started playing a game of hide and go seek and doing a EVP session while they were doing it. And so they go to a specific part of the cemetery, and then we catch an EVP that is directly related to their hide and go seek game.
Mhm. Right. So basically, I hope that that was able to be heard by everybody. It should have been, but pretty much a little girl or a girl's voice. None of us can figure out exactly what age.
We don't agree on the age at
We
all.
don't agree at all. Everyone that hears it has a different age bracket, and but saying you found me,
Mhm.
and which I think is amazing. Because obviously that is what you say when you come across somebody who is hiding.
Yeah,
You found
exactly.
him. So yeah, I agree. That place is, whew, like I love the other one that we go to. They're both in the same county. One just has more of that they're all there,
Yes.
and they're all watching you, and they're all around you, and they're all just kind of making sure that you're not doing anything horrible.
Yep.
And then we have the one that this come from, where it's this place feels darker, and then this place, another place in the cemetery feels lighter and more loving. I mean, it's just I know Lawrence talked about feeling almost like there's different classes there of people, and it's always that was where I had my very first full-bodied apparition sighting, which happened like 10 years ago, 10, 11 years ago now. It's completely different now, but it is still just as active. And
Yeah.
why, I don't know. We'll hopefully figure that out the more we go back.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen shadow figures there. When we were there, I was seeing, shadows, which I definitely don't normally do. And had, yeah, it's a special place.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. So, the next story that or next couple of EVPs actually go together, from the same conversation, same place, and it's Captain Mary's Mansion, which is probably 3 miles from the Grand Opera House. We got called in originally because there's what we call the annex, which is a building that's kind of connected to this mansion, that housed like holistic healers and masseuses and like mediums doing readings and stuff like that. And they couldn't keep new hires, because of the energy of the place. They would bring in a new medium or something like that, and they would be giving them a tour of everywhere, and they'd be like, this place just makes me uncomfortable. I'm not going to come here. So they just kept on losing people. So they wanted to find out if they could correct it. And so we got called in. We did our thing. We were successful. Very happy about that. We made a deal with the spirits and made sure that obviously the living people abided by it, and the whole energy of the place changed. But there were, and probably still are. I've been there quite a while now, 2.5 years. But there were spirits that wanted to talk, that wanted to communicate with people. And so we made a deal with them. There were certain places in the house where like paranormal investigations or like spirit box sessions could still be done for the spirits who wanted to still communicate. So it's another investigation. We're just it was me and another investigator just kind of checking up on the place. Are you happy? Is there anything else you need? Blah, 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 blah. And we had gotten a lot of names from the mediums, quote unquote mediums that work there. Like, oh, James is here and Bridget is here. And there's like a Frank or something like that. We've gotten all kinds of these names. And so the first one I'm going to place they're both spirit box sessions. They're both spirit box things, but you're going to hear me asking about whether because we couldn't find any evidence of any of the names that we were given, none associated with the house. So I'm asking if they just got it wrong, and we got a response twice, actually.
Can you tell me if they just got the names completely wrong, or if those spirits, what?
Sponsored, yeah.
They got the names just completely wrong? Can you tell me if they just got the names completely wrong, or if those spirits, what?
Sponsored, yeah.
They got the names just completely wrong?
I played that for the people who are our clients or whatever. And naturally, I was like, well, that's just what we were told. And blah. Like, yeah, you got it wrong. So later in that same session, I'm saying goodbye. I'm thanking them for the answers that they gave us and for spending some time with us. And they responded.
Well, hopefully upon review, I'll be able to pick out what you said. But thank you.
So you actually heard that too?
Yep, that's pretty clear.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully upon review, I'll be able to pick out what you said. But thank you.
So there are definitely active spirits there. The good thing is that they don't bother the people that stay there, because like I said, it is on the Airbnb. You can rent it. I highly recommend that you do. It's gorgeous. But yeah, spirits don't bother anybody. I think it's just when you try to mess with them, it's kind of difficult. So, all right, with the 12 minutes that we have left, it's the part we've all been waiting for.
Uh-huh.
The question that is burning on everybody's mind about the afterlife is, are we still at the mercy of bodily functions? And we're going to let obviously our evidence speak for itself. So the first one that we are going to do comes from a let me put it up here. There we go. Comes from a theater up in Duluth, Minnesota. We got called in, just, not because anybody was really scared or anything, but just to see if there's anything there. People have had experiences for years and years, and they just wanted a reputable team to go in and see if we could find any evidence, and we did. Even had my name come out of the spirit box, like, "Sup, Mike?"
I almost got crushed by an elevator door there.
That's right. I forgot about that. That was hilarious.
Remember when I was walking out of the elevator, it just closed? God, that was weird.
Well, not only that, but it was like the inside doors.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it wasn't even like the full doors. It was like the inside.
It was only the elevator doors itself, and the outside doors that keep you from falling down the shaft did not close. It was so weird.
It was amazing. But yeah, that was an amazing place. And I really have to talk to Serena again here soon. But there are some offices in the back corridor where people, I can't remember exactly what the claim exactly was, but it was like I think they had seen an apparition there. And so Scott and Haley, and then the pre-mentioned Serena, who was kind of like our liaison to the place. She was the employee that was kind of coming with us and set the whole thing up. They're all in this office. It's like a management office there for the theater. And they're not asking any questions during this clip. And they hadn't asked anything before it. So they're not really, I think they're just kind of taking it in. And you pretty much hear like the most perfect little girl sneeze ever. like you couldn't make it any clearer or any more, I don't want to say cliche, but like a textbook sneeze to which nobody responds, nobody reacts, nobody
Nope.
heard it. This is video, so I mean you will be able to see the fact that they don't, but the audio will still come through if you're not watching it. I didn't even hear it.
No, I don't think the audio was playing.
It should, because it plays all the time. Well, that's terrible. I hope that let me try that again. Boo. Okay. Well, that's terrible. All right, you're just gonna have to take our word for it. It was just
I guess so.
Just this little girl like, shoot.
Yeah, it's it's pretty good. Plus, that's like, we're in a building that, we're the only ones in the building, and it's like a big like floor full of offices in a very solid building. Like, it's not like we were next to an apartment or whatever. And no, it's like this building is like brick and mortar, solid walls. And the fact that nobody reacts to it and it's so clear on the recorder is like mind-boggling.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, there's no windows in that office either. I mean, that office is not against the far wall.
No.
It's in the middle of the building. All right. Well, our next two are audio, so we'll all be able to hear them. Sam can tell you about this one because it happened pretty much the exact same session as his music.
Yeah. So when we were in the dining room area of Ashmore Estates, this was pretty much directly after I got done playing music, and we were just asking, if they like the music, blah, 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 blah. And then we're in the dining hall, mind you, and a certain noise happens that you'll be able to hear pretty clearly, and we don't hear it at the time. So
yeah. So what they are referring to when they say that's really loud is all the birds that
Yes.
you'll hear in the background.
Yes.
I love hearing that.
Yeah, it sounds like a burp.
Oops. All right.
It was like a belch.
Yeah. Pretty, it's like Homer Simpson when he has too much duff.
Yep.
So, moving on to one of the last bodily functions. I guess the only one that we haven't picked up is vomiting. But
I hope we never do.
Are you kidding me? I would love to add another bodily function.
Just like a disembodied, like.
I think that would be amazing. But a couple weeks back, we had on James Wallen, who is a 32nd degree Master Mason. And when I first met him, he set it up so that we would be able to investigate the Scottish Rite Temple in Minneapolis.
Which I walked by on a dog walk today.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
It is beautiful, yeah.
Yeah. So it's myself, investigator Deb, and then one of the Master Masons and his wife. And it's just the four of us, and we're in what like their billiard room, like lounge, big ass room. And there's four couches all facing each other, and each of us are on a separate couch, so we're all facing each other. And we're talking about an experience that we had during that session, because the session's almost done. We're just kind of waiting until, the deadline by talking about what had happened during that last hour. When all of a sudden a noise, which we all heard, this is something you will hear us all react to, comes out of nowhere.
But it wasn't in here.
It wasn't in here. It was definitely out there. And I'm like, come on.
We didn't knock.
And well, yeah, because it didn't. What was that?
What was that?
Is it Casper the flatulent ghost?
But it wasn't in here.
It wasn't in here. It was definitely out there. And I'm like, come on.
We didn't knock.
And well, yeah, because it didn't.
What was that?
So, yeah, I used to call it the queef, but apparently I was wrong in my classification of what that was. So now I just call it the paranormal toot. But yeah, we all heard it. We all heard it from somebody's different. Like nobody could pinpoint where it was coming from. But yeah. So we have 3 different pieces of evidence, 2 of which you were able to hear tonight. You'll just have to trust us on the 3rd. Of evidence that apparently, even as spirits, what word am I looking for here?
Have bodily functions.
Well, we're still slave to having bodily functions.
See, what I like to think, and I have no idea why this would be the case, but like maybe there's such thing as residual bodily functions. I don't know. Like who knows? Maybe people, burp enough in a mess hall, or apparently fart enough in the Scottish Rite Masonic temple, and the energy just gets trapped.
But you know how much you would have to do that in that exact area?
I mean, who knows?
Well,
who knows
right.
How many people have farted in that room?
So, I mean, but that brings up the question that we'll kind of quickly talk about here of why do you suppose, let's just say it's not residual. This just doesn't happen enough for that to be absorbed into limestone or whatnot. But I mean, why do you think we, even in death, would be privy to that sort of thing?
That's my thing. Like that's it being residual is the only thing that makes sense to me, because if you're not in a physical body, you don't have the need to do that. Like, unless you're trying to be funny, like that's the only other explanation is just like, what if I made a fart noise right now? Wouldn't that be hilarious? Because come on, most people I think in history enjoyed a good fart. Okay? People today enjoy, I think burps are funny. I think farts are funny sometimes. I don't think sneezes are funny. But with the sneeze, like maybe just somebody was in the room with them and sneezed. Who knows? But it doesn't make sense to me that it would be just like somebody who is a spirit happens to burp, because that doesn't make any sense. If you don't have a physical body, you don't need to do that. So why would you? That's my thing.
Right. And I completely get that. So here's kind of my theory on it, and my question to everybody to try and figure this out for themselves is that we're all energy, whether we're alive, whether we're dead, we're all energy. And the theory is that you keep the same traits in death as you do in life. So if you were a dick in life, when you become a spirit, you also, you keep that trait, unfortunately. And just as if you were a loving grandmother, blah, 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 blah. So if you keep the essence of who you are, if you don't necessarily believe the fact, and maybe you don't know, maybe it's people in their death state who don't know they're dead, maybe they create it because they feel they are still alive. I mean, when we manifest ourselves as people, probably as the last life that we lived. So if we died in the Victorian age and we haven't come back yet, and we show up as an apparition, we're probably going to show up as a woman in a Victorian dress, or a suit, a top hat, whatever. I mean, if I passed away and I wanted to come back before I actually came back physically, if I wanted to come back and manifest myself, I'm certainly, let's just say I wanted to do it to you guys. I would show up as myself, as you would know me. So, I mean, if we keep all of that, would we not be able to still keep, or maybe even trick ourselves into believing that we still have that, I don't want to say that ability, but we still have that chore to do. Do we believe, we set out offerings, nuts, strawberries, whatever. People can't, spirits can't eat that, but they can absorb that energy. Why do they have to absorb the energy of food if they don't need to eat? So, I mean, do we make that real because we don't want to accept the fact that we don't need it anymore?
Yeah. I think that's an interesting theory. My only problem with that, though, when we are talking about bodily functions, like we do those things because our body needs to do them, right? Gas comes up this way sometimes, gas goes the other way sometimes, and that's what makes those noises. You can't, like, you're not faking a burp. Like, it's very hard to fake that. You get where I'm coming from? Like, if you don't have the need to do it, if your body's not trying to expunge these things and you don't have the reflex to do so, you're not going to do it when you don't have your body anymore. So that's my only problem with that. But I do understand what you're saying about presenting like you're being alive. Like, I think that's an interesting thing to think about, because talking about the death state you were just talking about, of like the theory that people might stay in their death state, the transitional period between being alive and being dead, for days, weeks, years, who knows how long. So who knows? Maybe it is somebody that is just manifesting these things because they still think they're alive. I think that's interesting to think about.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, I mean, I don't know. I just find it funny. And you could be absolutely correct. It could just, I've often thought that, is there a world behind our world? Are the dead continuing to live their lives in their own way, in their own dimension, in their own or whatever? So, I mean, who's to say that the spirits weren't having a belching contest?
Fair.
Or something like that, and it just happened to cross over. I don't know the answers to all that. All we can do is try to explain what our equipment, gives us. Whether it be through REM pod hits and K2 hits, or whether it be through EMF, or not EMF, EVPs and the spirit box. All I know is that it works.
All I know is that we caught EVPs of something.
Yeah. And it's up to us to try and put context to it, and try to give the dead a voice, regardless of whatever they have to say. So sweet. Well, that does it for us. Just want to point out again that you can see Sam and myself and the rest of the Odyssey Paranormal Society team. If you need any help, we are 100% open and ready to help anybody that needs it, whether it's just a question or advice, or you need us to come and help you in a physical way. And what I mean by that is, us doing an investigation of your home or business.
Yeah, let's clarify that statement a little bit.
Not that we are available to physically help you in any other fashion. We're not going to help you move. That's what I'm trying to say.
No.
But
I hate moving.
and like always, we do not charge.
No.
So you don't have to worry about getting a bill. You don't have to worry about whatever. We are here to help you, as we always have been. So, Sam, thank you very much for.
Thank you for having me on the show. It was a really fun time.
Yep. Good. Oh, you're welcome back anytime you want until Dave arrives. Dave comes back.
Nice.
But one thing I forgot, if you want to look us up, the team up, OdysseyParanormalSociety.com. If you want to reach out to the team, I mean, you can reach me at OdysseyFilesRadio@gmail.com, or you can go straight to me on the team side of things at director at OdysseyParanormalSociety.com.
Yep. You can listen to prior evidence there. You can read testimonials. So if you're not convinced we know what we're doing, that information is all there for you.
Yes, it is. All righty. Well, that does it for us this week. We'll be back next week with another new episode, which will be the last one for the year, since it's Sunday nights is Christmas and then New Year's. So,
oh my God,
I know 2 weeks, 2 weeks out from the big Christmas day is here.
Oh my God,
where Santa's peeping and stalkerish type activities comes to an end for another year.
Every breath you take, every move you make, he's watching you.
He's watching your ass. So, all right. So for Sam and myself, stay healthy, stay safe. Want to see you back here next